Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We're continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we're on Daf Chaf, Amud Bet, the two dots about the middle of the Amud, V'hamakif Pe'at Rosho. Today's Amud is being learned as a schut for Rufah Shel Ma'av, Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid. I should have full Rufah Shelemam, full recovery, B'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Also dedicated for Aliyat Neshama of Shlomo ben Yaakov, whose your side is today. Neshama should have an aliyah. This week's learnings, the community has been dedicated graciously by the Dayan family, by Kohen family, by Shei family. Should be an ultimate schut for all their families. Amen. Okay, so before we start today's Amud, we promised the last Gemara that we finished yesterday was Mishum lo yilbash kever simlat isha, that a person can't even take one white hair from his from his hair, from his head. When you have all black hair, when one white hair is sticking out, and you want to take that off to look nicer, Mara said you're going to be hayav on Shabbat. Because even according to Chachamim, who say usually you need two hairs to be chashuv, here is important already because you really care about this one hair not to be there. You really want it to be off. So therefore, even one hair will be hayav. And the Gemara then says, not only on Shabbat this is a problem, v'davar zeh asur, this is even prohibited during the course of the regular Tuesday, because Avlo yilbash gever simlat isha. This is a man doing something that is miyuhad for women. It's something that normally done as a manicure for women, and therefore it's included in the Isur Avlo yilbash gever simlat isha, which is not necessarily only limited to cross-dressing, but anything. You know, as famously the Targum says that a woman cannot wear talit and tefillin because of that. Now, talit is one thing, tefillin certainly. The Targum includes it as a issur of women cross-dressing and putting guns on nowadays for those who go to service of army. Will become a question if that is considered a kli gever, if that's considered wearing, putting on something that is miyuchat for men usually. This is a broader sugya and includes, of course, in it doing any manicure that will be considered normally something that women do. So what's the halacha for shaving your armpits? What's the question of shaving the body hair, which usually would be taken off only by women? Dyeing the hair to look younger. By the way, this question is the other way around. Also is a question. In other words, if you imagine you have an older gentleman that all of his hair is white, and now he has one black one still remaining from good old days, and he wants to just pull it out to look universally nice and white. Is that considered a problem or not? Generally speaking, the Sefer Hasidim seems to say that dyeing your hair white is not necessarily a problem. It's not you're not trying to look more attractive, so to speak. There was actually a question. Somebody, a surgeon, became a head of an entire hospital at a very young age, and it was uncomfortable because people who would be working under him would be twice his age. Like, all the senior surgeons of the hospital would be now under him. He was coming from a different state and becoming a head of a hospital, and it was uncomfortably. He's a Jewish guy, and he's in his 40s, and all these people, in upper 50s and 60s, they're going to be working under him. So he wanted to know if he could make it a little gray, look a little older for the job. So that's a totally different question that perhaps would be mutar, but dyeing it to look younger, it will be the problem. So this fellow who is in Shidduchim, and surprisingly at a very young age, he turned all gray, wanted to know if he could dye his hair to be looking more up to par for Shidduchim. And this has been discussed already in the Sefer Chelkat Yaakov by Rabbi Yaakov Mordechai Breish, Talmud of Levush Mordechai, and so on. And he takes this on with one of his peers, a very, very heavy debate of 20 pages, tshuvas, and so on and so forth, whether or not this is considered still asur, even though that's for sorach shiduchim or not. So I remember going to different poskim. This was a question that was addressed to me many years ago, but maybe this is now about 17, 18 years ago. And I felt that this was something that was done in America is becoming more and more something acceptable. The vast majority, it seemed from a basic research that they were in the Goyish public. That's the Rav Kiva Eger and the Gideon Maharsha, right? That this is not something that you assess based on the religious Jewish community. You don't have to go to Lakewood to Frum people to see what it is. You see what the general public of the society does, and that's basically the assessment if this is something men do or not. And I went around, and Rabbi Heinemann, I remember, told me, I told him, that there are kits, special kits for men. It's not something that you have to be, it's mamash, things that they sell, and it's made for men. And he said, no, that's just because they want men who are doing a woman's thing not to feel uncomfortable about what they're doing, but this is a womanly thing. Still is considered a problem. He would not budge. I felt personally that it was something that was gradually changing in the previous generation, in our generation especially, and I did find some serious backing for that from the people who I spoke, the poskim that I spoke with. But again, these are questions that a person, we're not discussing halacha l'maaseh is over the head of this little shiur, but these are questions to be asked. A person that wants to do these things like waxing hair and doing cosmetic tattooing and removing hair with laser and all those things that people little by little are opening the doors to cosmetic processes, we should say, that did not exist necessarily in previous generations, and mainly for women, even though that they are becoming more and more community accepted, even for men. It's something to ask a question for every specific case. Like, there are those cases that something is considered a mum, something is considered universally and objectively a problem. So removing that is not to be compared with something that you just want it to be nicer because you want your eyebrows to look like that, or your hair to look like this, and the pigmentation. There are many different things that are there to be asked and answered when discussing this shaila.
Isn't there enough kamina if a 40-year-old guy wants to dye his hair to look 30 versus a 30-year-old guy who looks like he's 50 because of his
So that's the question. Yeah, that is within the machlokes that I mentioned in Chelkas Yaakov. That is the discussion that it's the sorach mitzvah, and also this person just wants to look his age. He's not trying to look younger than his age. He has a mum. He has a blemish based on his age. He should not be having so much gray hair, and this is becoming a problem for his shidduchim and so on and so forth. That is part of the question. That is part of the question. So again, this becomes a broader question. This is discussed in the Bach, for instance. If you're cold, right, nothing to do with trying to cross-dress, but you're cold and you want to wear your husband's coat as you walk home from a Shabbat dinner Suda when it's chilly out there, and you want to put the coat on, not because you want to look like a man, but because you're freezing. So that would be perhaps mutar, because that's not included in this isur. This, just to show you that this has many different branches that needs to be studied by itself. I'm planning bli neder to come back to this and discuss at least some of the elements of it as we finish the Mishnah and the next daf, and we could reflect back on the Mishnah and Daf Chaf. So before we do that, let's first finish the Gemara. The two dots, the Gemara says, "Va'amakif pat rosho." We learned in the Mishnah that one of the other things that you become Hayav Malkut is if you smoothen the corner of your head. So what does that mean exactly? Says the Gemara, "Ze mashve sa'adav la'chorei ozno u'lepadachto." This is a person that equates the look of his forehead and the sides of his forehead to the area in the back of his ear. What does that mean? Back of the ear does not have, your head has two parts. There's the part that has hair, and then there's the part that doesn't have hair, right? And then by age that changes, obviously. But you have the area behind the ear that does not have hair, even for young people, and the area of the forehead that doesn't have hair with the sides. That's the differentiating factor between the two areas in your head. So the two sides with the back of the ear and the side of the forehead that do not have hair, and in between them, if you would draw a straight line from the corner where the top area of the hair on the head starts, every person has a different hairline, but the hairline that is on the side of a person's forehead, not on the top, would be from there drawing a straight line to the back of the middle area of the ear. In the middle, there's hair. So that is the area of peot harosh. Now, the Chazon Ish writes that, midat chasidut, we don't do it straight. The people who have peot nowadays, you'll see they all like a half a circle, the bow, the area, to midat chasidut, to make sure that they're not, because it could be a little off, so that you just round up that area and not touch any of that hair. That's how you see people who do grow their peot long, like the Ben Ish Chai writes everyone should do. Apparently Baktata was the minhag. I was actually looking at a old picture from Tehran of many years ago, at the time of my grandfather, Al Shalom, and it looked like the old them, they actually had peot. It's like a very, very interesting phenomenon. But nevertheless, in other words, it's not like a Hasidish thing only. Al pi the Mikubalim, they have been doing this for many moons. But nevertheless, you'll see that they don't have not necessarily a straight line. They have hair that they grow in a half a circle in the top of this area, instead of just having a straight line from the corner of the hairline on your side of forehead to the back, to the middle area of the back of the ear. That would be, according to Chazon Ish, a midat chasidut. It's like a weird mahmir, because we don't want to mess with, especially the Hasidim who shave the rest of the head, right? So if you make a mistake in that line, you have done a transgression, versus a person that gets a regular haircut that, you're not necessarily being mashve se'adav da'achorei oznav, which would be okay in any case. So that is what the Gemara says, hamakif, that you are rounding it up, hamashve, you are flattening it like the rest of the area, means that you are shortening the hair, well, enough short that it will be considered nothing, basically, from this area to the back of the ear. Now you have a straight line that everything doesn't have hair. Now, again, how long it has to be, and so on. Does it have to be mamash number 0, or anything less than 1.5? It will be a problem. 4.5 millimeters, or 5 millimeters, or 4 millimeters. Those are questions in halakha which we shall discuss at some point. These are actually important questions in halakha, because, as we mentioned before, many of the hairstyles nowadays, they very much border on this isur doraita of peot harosh. If you have a very short haircut on the side, you could be already falling into this category. Certainly, those barbers that like to thin out the hairline of next to where your beard line has to be on the sides with a razor. Certainly that is included in that, and a person should be mindful of it. Even those barbers who want to make a nice line around the hairline and around the ear, and they do that with a trimmer. A trimmer could be, the hairs that it cuts, it could be mamash, a number 0 basically around the ear. That will be a potential problem. So these are things that are important for every person to notice, especially based on what we're going to see momentarily, that the isur is not just for the barber, but the isur is for a person sitting under the knife of the barber as well. So says the Gemara. This is the definition of pe'at rosho, when you flatten the area between the hairline and the side of your forehead to the back of your ear. Tani Tanaka mid Rav Chisda. One of the Amoraim stood in the Bet Midrash and said the following teaching in front of Rav Chisda. It's not limited the isur to the barber, to the person that's giving the haircut, but two people are over on this, both the barber and the guy sitting and getting a haircut. So Rav Chisda is very surprised. He says, wait a second. Lucky if a person, there's a whole question in the Achronim, and it really is starting in the Rishonim already, what's the comparison of the case that Rav Chisda gives, but he brings this random example. It says, if you go and pick fruits on Yom Tov, which is Asur, and you put it in a basket, you bring it there, I eat them, I get lashes. What did I do? I didn't do it. Maybe I didn't do the right thing. Maybe there is a Yisur Darabanan, Gezerah, Lo Yeheneh Mima'aseh. You could talk about that. But I didn't do anything to get lashes. You pick the fruits on Yom Tov, you get lashes. So basically what he's saying is, this is lav she'en bo ma'aseh. I didn't do anything. You can't give me lashes for doing nothing. Maybe me signing up for this is a wrong thing. Maybe I will be liable in the eyes of the Bedin Shel Ma'ala for doing something wrong. But you can't give me lashes without action, even if I am over a lav d'oraita, even if I do a transgression midoraita that doesn't involve a ma'aseh, in action, I don't get lashes. Right? Remember leaving over the Korban Pesach until morning? You don't get lashes because you sit there and you're over by doing nothing. Lav she'en bo ma'aseh. So how can you give me lashes? That's the question Rav Chisda essentially is asking. So says the Gemara, the Amar lechamani. So he continues, Rav Chisda says, if somebody asks you who this shita is like, you answer him, this is Rabbi Yehuda's shita. Rabbi Yehuda hida amar lav she'en bo ma'aseh lo kin alav. That a love that doesn't involve an action also deserves malkut. So that's the first idea that's brought in the Gemara. Gemara is going to have three ways of understanding this halacha that was said in the Bet Midrash. So the first is the Rosh Hashiva. The Rosh Hashiva of Chisda said, this is according to Rabbi Yehuda, that holds that you get lashes even for a lav she'en bo ma'aseh. Says the Gemara, Rava Amar. Rava said, no, we are talking about a case that he gave himself a haircut, right? He gave himself a haircut, makif la'atzmo, and he is over now on two things. He is the makif, he is the nikaf. He is over on both of them. So says the Gemara, but that's according to everyone, because he actually is doing something. It's a lav sheyesh bo ma'aseh, therefore he is going to get lashes. Says the Gemara, Rav Ashi Omer. Rav Ashi says, B'mesayeh v'divra kol. You don't need any of this. It's much easier than that. We're talking about a case that you are Messiah. Right? Your Messiah means, it says, okay, tilt your head to the right, take it back, now I'm doing this to the front, now I'm doing this. And you're helping out. You are the partner in crime, so to speak, with the barber, and therefore you're doing an action. Now, you could ask a question. The Gemara says it's talking about putting cholin einayim on Yom Tov, which is aser. And Mara says, even though that you are opening the eye, closing the eye, doing whatever it is that needs to be done, you are not viable because Embe Messiah is not considered anything. Helping. So the Rishonim, the Ritba, others, they ask and answer over here that this is very different. This is Messiah Gamur. This is really, really like doing something important. Over there, your eye opens and closes anyways. So you're making it a little more convenient. But over here, the guy can't do it if you're not making it available for him to do it. And therefore, you're really partnering with the barber in this case. But be that as it may, that's the third and final answer of the Gemara. Hamashchit pa'at zekano, a person that shaves his beard with a razor, says the Gemara, Tan Rabbanan, pe'at zekano sof zekano, ve'ezeu sof zekano, shibolet zekano. This is referring to shibolet hazakan. Now we discussed this already before, that this is subject to the machloket. What exactly is the end of your beard? Because I could understand the end of the beard being here, where the hairline of the head and the beard mix. You'll see many people have different colors of hair and beard. And this is where basically it is, where the jaw, the bone of the upper area of the jawbone goes into the socket of the skeleton of the head. That's where the end of the beard is. But the end of the beard also could be here on the edge. It could be here on the edge. And it could be here on the edge. Where is the sof hazakan? Could be any of those areas, which again will be a subtotal if you consider the two sides of the head. It will be a subtotal of at least 9 areas in the beard. But if you shave all of those, basically, you will be in transgression of these 5. Fine. Says the Gemara, if you make one scratch, right? We're talking about a person that in anguish of a loss of someone that died, he is hitting himself, he is scratching his body and bleeding. So says the Gemara, our Mishnah said, when you do one srita, you're already transgressing this. One scratch and you're transgressing this. It's a minor cut. A minor cut already is in transgression of this. Tan Rabbanan, says the Gemara, we learned, Ve'seret yachol afilu sarat al betosh nafal val sfinatosh tava b'yam. Can this be any anguish? If his house fell, chas v'shalom, if his ship sunk, right, even bankrupt, and now he's hitting himself, he's scratching himself in anguish, is that also included in this? Do you have to be in full control of everything, or is it that this isur is very specific for mourning? So says the Gemara, Talmud Omar lenefesh. It's only for a soul that was lost. It's for anguish of mourning a dead person. Now, the full pasuk says in Vayikra Yutet, I'm reading the entire pasuk from the side here, Veseret lanefesh lo titnu b'psarchem, uchetovet kaka lo titnu bachem ani Hashem, that this goes together with creating tattoos on the body, but seret lanefesh lo titnu b'psarchem. Don't scratch yourself for a soul, for a nefesh. Now, the reason I'm reading this to you is the Gemara is going to understand something else from it as well, which will become a question. But nevertheless, the Gemara asks a question. If one person died and this fellow is scratching himself many times, 5 times, right? Is he hayav 1 or 5? What is his limit of liability? She says the Gemara, he's chayav 5. How do I know? Because it says, al kol achat ve'achat, on every scratch that he's made, and every cut, he's chayav and liable. Says the Gemara, Talmud Lomar, v'seret lechayev al kol slita. it says it in a singular form, the seret, one scratch, one cut, to tell you that even on one cut you're hayav, and on every additional one you're going to be hayav as well. Every one of them is important for itself. Lechayev al kol srita vesrita. Rabbi Yossi asks the opposite question. Says Rabbi Yossi, Minayin lemesaret srita achad al hemetim. How do you know if a few people died and you are so pained that in anguish of all these people dying, you make one cut? Well, you made one cut. How many hayuvim can you have? Is it one or is it five? Says Rabbi Yossi, how do I know that you're going to be hayav five? On every one of these people who died, you made a cut. Right? Says the Gemara, Talmud Omar, lenefesh. Lechayev al kol nefesh v'nefesh. The reason that it says lenefesh is coming to tell you, for every single soul, you hayav one. So you have 5 different people who made you so unhappy, so pained, and you made a cut. On every one of them, you have. Must wait a second. But you just told me that nefesh, we learned something else from it. You just learned from nefesh that if your ship sunk or your house got destroyed, you don't get hayuv. So how many things you want to learn already from one thing? Must you're correct. Mara says, correct. Kasava Rabbi Yossi, srita v'gedida achad hi. There are 2 isurim in the Torah, which this will be the platform for tomorrow's shir. There is an isur of seret lanefesh lo titenu b'vsarchem, which is in Vayikra, we just learned, and there is another isur in Tvarim, and which says lo yeh keli gever al isha v'lo yilbash gever simlat isha to'avat Hashem, and it also says that the person says lo titkodedu v'lo tasimu korcha ben einechem lamet. Lo titkodedu means also cutting. So therefore, you're 2 isur of cutting. And says, Gemara Rabbi Yossi holds they're one and the same. So over there by lo titkodedu, it says lamet. It says for a dead person. So once I say these 2 are the same thing, the scratching and the cutting is the same, and one of them it says clearly lamet only for a dead person, I don't need the word lanefesh to tell me that you're doing this for that person. I have lenefesh, the word lenefesh, open for a drasha that on every single soul that dies, you get a hayuv. So therefore, if you made one scratch on 5 different souls, you get 5 different transgressions over here. That's how Rabbi Yossi understood it, which again is going to be the platform for the better understanding of the isur of lo titkodedu, which Bezat Hashem will continue in the days to come.